The momentum continues. The Badgers get another one. Let's sound the cannons. Let's go.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Badger fans, let's go. These are the fun shows we get to celebrate together. Another player has jumped into the fold. And let's sound the cannons, because these are the fun shows, and these are the ones where we get to celebrate a little bit.
Fire the recruiting cannons. Another one is headed to Madison on Wisconsin.
Let's go. All right, so Rakeem Stroud, cornerback out of Tampa Bay Tech, Tampa Bay, Florida, commits to the Badgers. Who is he? Like, what are we getting with Rukeem Stroud? So 5'11", 170 pounds, lanky, frames, levers, arms, body. Like, he is a guy who has the physical frame to go up and compete at the jump point with taller receivers, at the catch point, right? Down the field, slot fades, verticals. He has a great lanky frame as a cornerback. You love to see that. Fast, right? 10'6", I think he's going to be a 10'6", 10'5" guy. Right now, I think he's in the 10'7s, but he's going to be a 4'4" guy, track guy, moves really, really well. You see that on film. Outruns angles, really athletic, long cornerback, probably about 5'11", like he's just under that 6 foot mark, but the long arms make up for it, and he definitely has the speed to carry receivers down the field. Offers, really good offer list, right? We always talk about look at the offers. Like, just look at it all. Every data point matters, right? Look at the film, trust your eyes. Talk to people who see him. Look at the offer list. Look at the star ranking. Look at the production. Look at it all, right? So physical traits, he checks that box, right? Length, size, speed, offer list. Let's talk about it. He checks that box too. There's a lot of schools on his offer list who know ball, right? There's also some academic schools, which I love to see. You see a Georgia Tech, you see a Duke, but you also see a Texas A&M, you see a Penn State, you see a Nebraska, you see a Kentucky, you see a Wisconsin, you see a USF, right? Really good offer list. So he checks that box. And the USF thing is big. That people may write that off like, oh, USC beat out USF. USF recruits that area of Florida really well. Local school, they pull talent. That's not nothing to pull local kids away from that. So good offer list, like the frame, like the speed. Let's talk about the game a little bit. Rakeem Stroud, really good hands. Like we talked about the speed. Like speed's the first thing that sticks out. Like he can run with receivers. He can carry them downfield. He gets up to speed really quickly, outruns angles. And again, he's playing in an area with other athletes. So the speed shows up on film against other athletes that have speed. So that's the obvious one. You don't need to know ball or watch film to watch Rukeem Stroud and say, well, that guy's pretty fast. But what else does he do? Great anticipation and awareness skills, right? Will squat on a route, digs out, jumps it really quickly, right? Really strong anticipation skills. I think that's because he trusts his deep speed, right? So he can squat a little bit on some of those shorter routes, trust the deep speed, and then he drives on the ball, puts a foot on the ground. When his eyes see it, his body believes it. Great hands. You know, he could definitely be a receiver. Rakeem Stroud has that type of athletic ability, can snatch the ball. He's a hands catcher, multiple pick sixes, right? When the ball is in his hands, he's a natural runner. He changes the field quickly. There's special teams ability here with him because he's that type of athlete. This is a guy who could be a receiver, right? He's catches the ball, great body awareness. He could definitely be a receiver, and you're getting those receiver skills in a cornerback package, which I think you don't get many of those, right? A lot of cornerbacks don't have that ball awareness. They don't have the ability to catch like that. They don't have the ability to do that type of thing that he can from the cornerback spot. So that's a big one. Like I said, slight and lanky. Like he needs to get bigger. He needs to get stronger. He needs to put on 10, 15 pounds, which by the way, 10, 15 pounds of good muscle is going to make him faster, right? You get stronger in the upper body. You get stronger in the legs. He's going to get even more athletic. He's going to take some of those tenths of a second off his 40 time, but he does have to get bigger and stronger, which is fine. That can happen. Brady Collins can teach bigger and stronger. But again, what you can't teach is speed. What you can't teach is 5'11" long arms with anticipation skills. So you're getting that in a package. Brady Collins is going to strap on 20 pounds of muscle onto him. This is a really high upside kid. I know for a fact this is a kid that the staff thinks was a little under recruited. Pat Lambert did a great job with him, kind of establishing that relationship, getting him up to campus, selling the program and the vision for what they can do with him. This is a really big win for the Badgers. Plan a target at the cornerback spot. And you look at the history of what they've done there and what they've starting to build in that cornerback room, and you got to be pretty excited as a Badger fan. The other thing with film on Rakeem Stroud that I really liked, he'll come up and hit you for a slight cornerback, a guy who's 170-ish. He needs to put on weight to make that more effective at the Big Ten level. Honestly, he needs to put on weight so he can survive playing that way at the Big Ten level. But there's a couple plays on film, man. He reads the screen. He reads the outside run action. He puts the foot in the dirt, and he's a missile, and he just throws his body into people, right? So that's a level of physicality. Again, I talked about the things you can't teach about a player. You need a cornerback who's willing to throw his body into somebody. You need a cornerback who's willing to just take somebody on. And Stroud shows that on film. So I think you get the speed, you get the length, you get the ball skills, and you get a guy who's willing to come up and be physical. And when you put 20 more pounds on him, I think that's going to play. So I think this is a big time commit. Really, really good player. In previous classes, this would be top of the board cornerback class. Again, last year was so good with Lucas and Agard. You start to think about what this staff is doing with all of that talent. We're going to talk about that a little bit coming up next, and still what's going on with the visual visits. But yeah, this is a really good one. Be excited for Rakeem Stroud. This is a player that a lot of schools are going to, I think, take another look at and maybe try to get back into this. Today's episode brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, patience. This is what brings home the winning trophy. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has changed everything you need from the traditional model of maintaining vehicles that's painful, annoying, driving in, talking to people who don't want to be there at a parts store, and maybe they don't have your part, and then you get frustrated. And then if you're like me, you're frustrated while you're waiting for them to get the parts. So you head to the gas station and you anger eat, which usually means Reese's Pieces, and then you spiral, and then you put on weight. And it's all because I didn't have eBay Motors to find the right part, the right fit at the right prices. Right? eBay Motors takes all that stress out of my life. Right? I can just go to eBay Motors. I don't have to worry about going into a place, getting annoyed, and then anger eating. Right? eBay Motors has over 122 million parts. Keep your ride or die alive in the fastest and easiest way to buy auto parts. Right now, eligible items only. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Exclusions do apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. That's ebaymotors.com. Keep your ride or die alive. Okay, let's for a quick second here. And again, I love this pickup. Rakeem Stroud is a big-time pickup for the Badgers. But let's zoom out for a second. You look at what this staff is building, right? You look at last year's class, and it's Xavier Lucas, it's Emilio Agard, it's Jay Harper, right? You look at what they're doing this year with you have Rukeem Stroud in the fold. I still feel pretty good about Zay Gentry. That's 5 dudes right there who, in many of the Paul Christ, Jim Leonard, Brett Bielema, like this isn't just a Christ thing. In many of those classes, any one of these 5 guys we'd look at and say, that's the best corner in this class. And they've stacked him in 2 classes. And then you even go back the year before and you think of an Amari Snowden, right? And a Jonas DeCluna, right? You talk about 7 guys that in any one of these classes you could look back and say, gosh, these are all like plan A type targets that this staff is reeling in. And they've come in. It's shocking to me how this isn't talked about more. I know I've talked about it, but I don't think you can beat this drum enough. They have completely switched the cornerback room and how they've been able to group to it. Like, what has been the narrative of Wisconsin? And it hasn't been the cornerback recruiting has to get better. The narrative has the cornerback recruiting can't get better because you can't get those guys to Madison. Well, turns out you can. Turns out that's not a true thing, right? Turns out this staff was like, no, I think we can do that. And they've done it, right? And that, more than anything else, that narrative shift should give Badger fans a ton of confidence in what this staff can accomplish, right? Because if they can shift the narrative there, they can probably do it on the defensive line and at receiver and at quarterback too, right? The group of positions, the constellation of positions that have kept the Badgers from reaching the highest tiers of college football, right? This staff has already taken one of those and said, no, we'll be fine there. No, throw in a Lucas and Agard. And now again, I've stressed that these guys have to develop. They have to reach their potential. Not all of them will, because that's recruiting. But you can't do the second without the first, right? You got to get the guys with the physical tools in first before you worry about how do we develop them. And previously, we weren't getting those guys, right? We weren't even giving ourselves a chance. We weren't getting the balls of clay to see if we could develop them into the elite corners. And we were getting good players. It's not a knock on the Wild Gooses and the Tyndalls and the Sojourn Sheltons, but like we weren't getting this caliber consistently of tall, long athletes from tough competitive areas that can play ball on an island. That's the difference, right? That's the difference. It felt like previous cornerbacks, we were always somewhat sacrificing something, whether it's size, whether it's technique, whether it's level competition. Like you look at a guy like Al Ashford. Al Ashford was a 4'4" guy, 6 foot, but he didn't really play anybody. It was a poor level competition. The technique wasn't there. It just feels like this cornerback room, they have done an incredible job of elevating it from the raw talent perspective. I'm very excited to see what this room could look like in 2 years. And again, the bigger point here, you got to zoom out, is if they can flip cornerback recruiting on its head, why can't they do it for receiver or defense line or quarterback? I think the answer is they probably can. Be excited. Be excited, Badger fans. All right, Rakeem Stroud on board. I love it. I think it's a great pickup. Had him on the show. Unfortunately, we had some internet issues, but a really nice kid to talk to as well. Definitely mentioned the physicality in his game. He smiled about that. He's a corner through and through. I think Badger fans are going to like him. I really enjoyed my talk with him. Again, that show didn't get out because we had internet issues, but I think you're going to like him as well. We'll try to get him back on. Rakeem Stroud to the Badgers. Let's go. More to come.